All right. See, the book of Job. My sister just says it's her favorite book. It's my favorite book too. For many reasons. One of the reasons is that's the book when I was growing up. Some of you guys already know a little bit of my background. That's the book my mom would always pull up when I'm trying to complain about something. See, just a quick background. I grew up in a very tough situation. Hunger was the most important thing that was troubling my mind. And whenever I would say something like, remember Job? Job, was patient and la, la, la. And it was really nice. So growing in an Adventist family, you have all this blessing to get to know the Bible, even if you've never read it. Yeah. So technically, I grew up knowing almost all the story of the Bible because that was my bedtime story. Yeah. So I was like, okay, yeah, Job, yeah, he was really, like whenever I heard about Job, I was like, yeah, who am I? Look at what Job went through. So, I just have to handle everything that I'm going through. Until I was, let's say, around 21, 22, I started to I was like, okay, I'm away from my protection. Because, at home you have your mom. In my specific situation was like almost everybody at my house was Seventh-day Adventist. And almost everybody was reading the Bible. So I never had a need to actually open the Bible. Because everybody, at the end of the day, every Friday, we would be singing the song. It was just beautiful. So why would I have to read? I already know the Bible from the beginning to the end. I read about it. It was tough because once I read the book, I saw something else. How many of you, how did you find it?
It was indeed a similar experience, but the thing that I'm complaining about is nothing compared. So therefore, it allowed me to deal with my situation in a different way.
Exactly. So there's actually a lot. The more you read, the more you find out something that you're like, wait a second, this doesn't make no sense. So let's go into the story a little bit. Once upon a time, there was a man, right? That time, Moses is the one actually who wrote this book. So that's during that pre-Jesus time, right? That man, and as we read in the book, I'll read the book again, as God himself said, he was a just man, good man. Yes. That man would even pray before his sons commit a sin. Remember, he would wake up and he would say, just in case they sin in their heart, not even an open sin, something that, I heard your son did it. No, he was just, maybe in their heart, they thought something bad about God. Let me go and offer a sacrifice. That takes a lot of work. You got to kill a goat and that just because you are worried about how your son or your daughter have thought. You know what I'm saying? So, and then, and not only that, he was very rich. He was blessed, but he was also a very kind person, right? And then suddenly, in one day, all calamity happening in their life, right? He lost his material things, and also he lost his sons and daughters, right? And not only that, right? Almost all his family ran away. This sounds familiar. We probably have seen what happened when you're losing everything. Everybody runs away. So his family, his friends against him, he became technically homeless, right? He had nothing, right? And then there he was like, okay, God gave it, God took it. I'm, gonna wait on the Lord. He's chilling. Then few moments after, another calamity hit him. His body started to create, very strange disease that up to now we don't know what really was, right? And you're like, oh no, I'm already here. So imagine, before he was physically attacked, he was already mourning. Can you imagine what it is to lose 7 sons and 3 daughters in one day and lose everything? That guy was mentally probably was just like, I don't know what to do. Just sitting down mourning because that's a big loss. Now, the next day you're having all this physical pain. You're scratching yourself with whatever he was using, but his skin was peeling, bleeding. That was terrible. You are mentally hit and physically also hit. That man had no, no break at all. And I was like, okay, interesting. And then not only that, despite of that, the friends that came to support him, that's what I heard from the story. They're like, oh yeah, you are bad, and you, and you, and you. And then, okay, that's fine. Then I opened the book, and I started seeing things. Well, in every story, there's always a background story. That's the first thing I've learned, right, in this book. The blessings we have, we who live now, we have the Bible, we have the ability to look things backward. But imagine Job. Job didn't have the knowledge that we have now. All of them at that phase, they didn't even know, they haven't know about nothing about Jesus. We know about Jesus, you know. They could only preview or prefigure it by the, sacrificial system, but we now know who he was. We can describe him in a lot of aspects. Right. And then here is the first thing that I read, and we go to the text. It says, then the Lord asked Satan, have you noticed my servant Job? He is the first man in all the earth. He is blameless, a man of complete integrity. He fears God and stays away from evil. Just that sentence in itself, in my mind, was like, God is provoking Satan. Yeah. Let me open up the background. So one day, obviously we already know about Job's situation. Now, one day, the members of the heavenly court, that's Job 1, verse 6, we're starting there, came to present themselves before the Lord, and the accuser, which means Satan, came with them. And then a question came, where have you come from? The Lord asked this question. It seems like Satan was just there chilling, and somebody asked him a question, and he had to answer, right? But then Satan answered, I have been patrolling the earth, watching everything that's going on. And then God asked the other question that we just read. Then the Lord asked, have you noticed my servant Job? If you read that, my first time, I'm like, no, God, you're provoking Satan. He's there. Why are you asking him a question? He's a bad guy. Until you dig in a little bit and say, oh, wait a second. First of all, what happened with Satan before the creation of human being? He was kicked out of heaven. Because before he became a serpent, he had rebelled in heaven, right? And his thesis was the law of God is impossible to fulfill. We don't need no law. We are angels. These amazing beings. Why would we need the law of God? Nobody can fulfill. Nobody can live to the T on the law of God. That's why, and this is him accusing God. That's why you see the third part of the angels. They don't even want to know. They believe me. You see. But because of that, a conflict happened and he was kicked out.
Yes.
Right? Okay, now this person was not supposed to be there. He was kicked out. Now it makes sense, the question, where you come from. For instance, if you are hosting a party in your house, you invited your friend, and suddenly somebody who you don't know was not in the list shows up, what would be the first question?
What are you doing here?
Yeah, what are you doing here? Where you come from? So now it makes sense. I'm like, okay, now, okay. It makes sense what the question was, because he was not supposed to be there. But then Satan defends himself with this question. Right. He answered, I have been patrolling the earth, watching everything going on. See, in the past, the kings usually, they walk around on the kingdom to see what's going on and who's trying to create some kind of conspiracy against him, his kingdom. Remember, David, when he saw the woman he fell, he was walking around watching his kingdom. Actually, I won't even talk about them. I will talk about Jesus himself. What happened in the Garden of Eden? Every afternoon, he was coming and walk around and see his creation.
Yes. Yes.
And his created being would be, so every king, everyone who has a dominion of something have to watch over it. So in Hebrew language, that's what Satan was actually saying. I am coming representing my kingdom. And then he keep on, he give more explanation. And I was watching everything that is going on. Did he say some things?
Everything.
Everything. So that man that angel has his eyes on every little details of what's going on, not just in political spectrum, but in every single life right here, right? And then, because he is, remember what made him to be thrown out of heaven is he said his law was impossible to fulfill. That's why he sinned. So he had his thesis. So he went there to, to try to keep annoying the peace of heaven by trying to say, hey, nobody can fulfill the law of God. He wasn't just on ousting me out of heaven. Yes. Then God had the right to say, well, wait a second. Have you seen my servant Job? I know you say you have a control of everything, but I don't think you do. You can't control that single person. You see, like, he said he could see everything, but that was a lie. He could not control that one man. And that was actually the reason that led him to go to heaven. He was annoyed. He's like, oh, well, yeah, God, you say that, but here he says, Satan replied to the Lord, yes, but Job has a good reason to fear God. You have always put a wall of protection around him and his home and his property. You have made him prosper in everything he does. Look how rich he is. But reach out and take away everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face. Wow. Right? And then God, you see, it was like a match, a chess match. Okay, if that's what you're saying, all right, in chapter 12, you may test him, the Lord said to Satan, do whatever you want with everything he possessed, but don't harm him physically. So Satan left the Lord's presence. Listen, as soon as he heard it, probably God didn't even finish saying all of it. He like, oh, I was given the green light. This also highlights one thing, that it's in the background that we don't see. The thing is, like, we are here because there's a host of angels surrounding all these walls here. The moment God decides to say, hey, you are, to Satan, he just say, you are allowed. Before he finished the whole word, Satan leaves the presence coming here. And if you see in the Bible, the calamities happen right away. Swift and quick. Satan don't play. As soon as we lose God's protection, it's a matter of seconds. We're all gonna be gone.
That's true. That's true.
You see? But thank God we have that protection. But also, there's one thing that is saying here. Because of one just man, do you see how many people were protected?
Yes.
The servants, the cattle, everybody. Because remember, we're saying here, is his son that were killed? No, it was not only his son. His servants were all killed in the field.
There's one escape.
Only one escape. Yeah. Almost in everywhere, like only one escape. You see, because of one just man, a whole group of people were protected.
That's true.
Because this is another thing that you ask yourself, like, wait a second, God, if the deal was just between you and the devil about Job, why do all these, including servant, they're not his son? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But there's a lot more. We're not going to dive into it, but just see, like, because of one just, there was peace. We also saw that in Sodom and Gomorrah, when God was going to punish, what was Abraham's question? And God was like, I was going to save the city if I found at least two. Yes. I think it's two, but there was only one. And there was no more cure for the city. And even Lot's family were saved because of the righteousness of the father. You could see that the wife was not able to make it because of all the situation. All right. Now, things is happening. Job, Satan takes everything away. Job is suffering, and it's all fine. He is there, and instead of cursing God, he blesses God. That's another thing that I learned. I was like, okay, he's gone through all this, and he stays say, okay, God gave and God take. Blessed be the Lord. Yes. Fine. That made the devil very, very uncomfortable. He was like, I'm going back to heaven again. There's another meeting in heaven. I don't know how often it takes, probably once a year. I don't know. It's like, I'm going to go back there again. And the same conversation starts again. And the Satan answered the same way. And then that's when Satan said, okay, right, let's go skin to skin. And God's like, okay, fine, just preserve his life. You know. And obviously Satan came and threw him all this situation. And poor Job was like, okay, this is too much now. Now, this is where I started seeing another different thing, that it was not the same as I was taught at home. The thing that I noticed is you can find it on Job chapter 3. Job started complaining. Did you ever see that? I was surprised to see that Job can argue. he could. To every question, everybody who was saying something to him, he was saying something back. Job was a good complainer. You can read all the chapter. He was like always complaining. In the first one, you can see in chapter 3, I summarized, like Job basically was just desiring death. He was in a very deep state of depression that he just wanted to die. And then he sat there, and then the friends came in. That's another puzzle that it's like the friends came in, right? And they just sat down. Now my question was like, usually rich people, they always have rich friends as well, right? So he's there, homeless, struggling, stricken with all this situation. Their friends they sit down there for 7 days. They said nothing. And then when they started saying, well, I'll go there first. But the first question is like, if you're really a friend indeed, your friend is in need, what would you do? Like, if I have all that money, I'm sure probably Job was richer than them, but I'm sure he had some rich friend at least. Yes. And I think it wouldn't pain them to just take 2 camels, or a little bit, okay, Job, I see you going through this, I have a house. Do you want to come home? Oh, I have a servant can help you clean your woods. Yes. Did you see anyone doing anything? Nothing. They just sit down there. And when they open their mouth, they started talking. Well, according to the version I heard at home that they taught me, they were accusing. But then when I read the book, I got confused. Because when I really first read the book, when I read those friends' arguments, I felt that there was like, oh, they look right. They were defending God. They were just saying, like, for instance, Eliphaz is like, no, Job, you must have done something. God is fair. God will not just come and punish you unless you do something. Because if you do the right, God will bless you. And then it comes another guy called, what's his name? Bildad. And then Bildad is saying, yes, it's true. God, if you do good, God will bless you. If you do wrong, God will, punish you. And then Zophar, the third friend. And he came and said, no, you know what? God didn't really actually punish you enough. You deserve way more. Mercy. Like, it's interesting. But the thing is, I now was able to make this kind of inference. But before I was like, if you really read how they say, it doesn't really look like this. It looks like somebody, like prosperity gospel today, it looked exactly the same. You can't really see the problem in it.
Yes.
Because they were all, and another thing in common that I forgot to say is that they were all Christian. They all say that they all had some form of knowledge of God, as similar as Job. But they had a little different. When Job started replying, for instance, when Job replied to Eliphaz, he simply say, I have the right to complain. And he keep on saying the same thing. I have the right to complain. But in all his reply, he was actually asking for a redeemer. I know my redeemer lives.
Yes.
That's one of his last answers, right? But if you see the arguments of the friends, none of them was saying about a redeemer. They were preaching a gospel that you are saved by your own works.
Yes.
And you are condemned by your own work. But if you just read the Bible straight away, you're not going to get that.
That's true.
You'll be like, oh yeah, this is right. This is right. I'm like, oh, wait a second. But then when you go deep to Job's answer, Job is like, I'm not trying to say that I know I did right, but I also know I'm not perfect. But what I'm here doing is asking for a mediator.
Yes.
You'll find a lot of times Job saying, mediator, I need a mediator. So Job was looking for a mediator. That is the testimony that Jesus was saying, right? The ones who keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Christ. Is the testimony of Christ. Job understood. So it seems like they both had two different knowledge of God. Although they were all Christian, they were all in the same church, if we put it today, but they had two different experiential knowledge about God. The three friends, they know all the theoretical aspects, if we bring it to our context, all the theoretical aspects of the Bible. We all read the Bible. Who don't read the Bible? I'm sure we all here read. Yeah. But Job's answer was deeper, was way more insightful. It was with a deeper discernment. And the other interesting thing that caught my attention was, they all know about the sacrifices. Job seemed to be the only one who understood the meaning about the sacrifices they were doing. Because Job was talking about the Redeemer. And that was those lamb sacrificial system was all about, prefigurating Jesus Christ. But those friends, they also did sacrifice, but somehow they missed the point. They thought, okay, I'm sacrificing because I'm paying God for the sins I've done, so he must forgive me, right? You know what I'm saying? So that's basically the attitude. But interestingly enough is how, and then when you see actually deep, you can actually see the devil's voice in the three friends. Although they came to help, when it comes to action, we already seen that they didn't do anything worthy of a friend. Because listen, if my friend is like in that condition, I'm not going to talk to you. I'm like, hey, brother, you don't have clothes or anything? You're like, oh, I have extra jacket there. I cover you first, and then we talk about it later. I don't know what's going on. If I see you walking naked in the street, the first thing hey, that's my brother. Cover him up. If you're actually true friends. And then we talk about it later. Bro, is everything all right? But not like, oh, why are you naked, brother? You know what I'm saying? That's what happened here. Can you see the hypocrisy?
Yes.
Right? And, all right. And then, let me see. Don't want to go too long. Because this book is complex and it has every little page has something big to see. Like, for instance, you even find things about science. Job is in one of his rebukes against one of his friends is saying like, God is the one who suspends the earth. Remember, we now know that the earth is spinning on nothing. But before, people used to think there's elephants there, holding the earth, and there were so many theories. Remember, that's before Christ. There was no technology. But Job already knows a lot. You'll be surprised about how he knows about geology, geography, astronomy. You'll be like, wow. But we're not going to go deep into that. Let's just talk about the spiritual aspects of it. Right? Now, all their friends had that hypocritical attitude. But that's actually what called my attention, though. It's probably what I want to discuss, because I don't want to find myself in that situation, because that's somehow like they were lost within the church.
Yes.
They knew a lot. Like, you read their arguments, you'll be like, the first read, you'll be like, no, these guys, they are right. Job is wrong.
Yes. Yes.
Until you have to start, like, word by word, dissecting it, you're like, oh, that's prosperity gospel.
Yes.
Oh, yes, you come, give your tithes, and God will bless you. That's not what the Bible say. Anyway, it goes on. But there was another friend that came in. That's probably not been spoken a lot. He was among the three. But because he was the youngest, he could not talk, because in that time, the elder, people who are older than you, had more advantage. So he had just to be silent. The problem is he then got pissed off, if I would use this term, or angry or mad, because he saw that the three elder friends who came to convince Job that he committed the sin were not able to really convince him. But also, on the other hand, he saw that, Job, you are arrogant of complaining to God. You are suffering, just be quiet. Mm-hmm. And this is also what sometimes we speak about people. When somebody's going through, like, oh no, just be quiet. Somebody's crying because there's some, oh, don't cry. No. Sometimes you got to let the people, express themselves. And also, let me show you another example of somebody who complained. Somebody who complained 1 second before he died. Can you guess? Jesus. Jesus also complained. He asked, my God, why did you forsake me? But there's a difference here. There's a difference between you expressing the pain that you're going through and presumption. Right? I heard a voice. Oh, okay. Yeah, and presumption. All right. So the complaining of Job is the natural, like, have you ever gone through something like, God, why me? Why am I going through this? Because it's natural, it's human nature. You're going to go through pain and you're going to cry. You're going to, ouch, you will react on that, right? But even though Job was depressed, he wanted to die, he didn't kill himself. That's usually the difference between most of examples in the Bible of people who eventually faced the situation and they eventually they take actions on themselves. Right. What Job here, the lesson we can learn is like, although he was complaining, he did not take no action on himself. He was still waiting on Jesus Christ. That's true. That's true. You see, although you're going to go through situations that you may not understand, you still have to wait on Jesus Christ. Amen. And another thing also that I discovered is like the master work of Satan. Yes. Satan, usually if he cannot convince in terms of theory, and he's usually going to use pain. And the pain has been more efficient in leading people into astray. Pain and fear is his best tool, right? You see how he couldn't, Job was probably, because the Bible say his half-life, that's during his half-life, so he died at 140 years old. So he lived for 70 years. And within that 70 years, Satan was there, boom, 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 theoretically trying to find a way for him to commit a sin. He couldn't. But he was like, okay, I'm not able to tempt this guy with no women. Job says that. No alcohol, no power, none of those passion of the flesh, no lust. He's a man, rich man, rich man. All the women are after you. But the devil couldn't get him, right? So he was pissed off. He's like, okay, I can't get him on all these pleasures. I'm going to cause him pain, a pain so utterable. Can you imagine how his sons died? A wind blow and boom, destroyed the walls. And it was supernatural effect. A fire came down from heaven and just burned all those castle and the servants, everybody. It was a sudden and supernatural kind of shock situation. It was intended to create him shock and desperation. This one came in before he finished speaking. The other one came in before he finished. It put your brain in like in a shocking stage. But that guy was so calm and say, the Lord have given and the Lord have taken. You have to have the peace of the Lord in your heart to be able to withstand that type of way.
That's true. Amen. That's true.
Just at any human strength, you would not. I would not do that. I can say, because that's too much to bear. You have to have the strength of God withstanding you for Him to be calm and say those words. The Lord have given, the Lord has taken. Oh my goodness, that was like for me miraculous. And this is what, if we bring this in today's world, do you think the devil have changed his tactics?
No.
No, he's been working for him. It just didn't work for Job, but it actually worked for thousands of people.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So, he's still using this same tactic for the people. But anyway, now, fast forward. Everything happened. Job is just saying, God, please, give me an answer at least. Oh, let me just die. And when I came into the church, brother just say, one of the passages of the Bible that say, the death of a just, can you repeat it again? Precious to the sight of the Lord. Yes. You know, sometimes when you're suffering and sometimes you see death more desirable than the suffering. Sometimes, yeah. And if you are in the Lord, that's a good rest. Yes. I mean, I've already done all my work. I'll just wait for my reward. So it's actually true, right? And that's the stage where Job was, right? But then the other thing that struck my mind, he was going through all that. Then suddenly God comes.
Yes.
And he comes in a whirlwind. And he showed up.
Yes.
Called Job. Hey, you who've been complaining.
Yes.
Put your seatbelt, come here to my car, and let's go for a ride. And then they go for a ride. I was like, okay, now God is gonna answer him. Nope. There God come with even tougher questions.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, where were you when the earth was being created? I'm like, wait, God, shouldn't you just be patient to him giving the answer? He's been suffering all these days. Like, nope. Did you see the Leviathan?
Yes.
And the behemoth?
Yes.
These are like beasts of the earth and the beasts that come from the sea. That sounds familiar? Yeah. Exactly. Did you see the Leviathan and all these things? What? And I was like, oh, God, you're not being good to him. You're asking him way more questions when he already had a lot of questions. Yes. He was asking you for answers. You show up to ask more questions. Doesn't that sound a little bit confusing? But then God is God, right? But there's one thing that Job spoke that caught my attention. He said, before I heard about you, but now my eyes see you.
That's it.
That's two different knowledge.
Yes.
And that person who was there, he was in the Godhead, in my imperfect understanding, seems to be Jesus, who came to speak to him. Yes. In fact, who created the Word?
Yes.
Who made all those calculation, mathematics, and the laws and so on? It's Jesus. God the Father told him to do so, but he used his power, Jesus Christ. He's the architect, the builder. So the question, the way it's asked, has to be the one who actually did it. So that's Jesus Christ. What was Job's complaint? Wasn't he complaining for a Redeemer? I know my Redeemer lives and he will come.
Yes.
The Redeemer came in.
Yes.
And you can see when he was describing between the fight, the battle with Leviathans, the Redeemer was describing to Job a battle, a fight that he was having with those animals that usually represent satanic activity, which is what Jesus did. That Redeemer, one time after Job, came in and died for Job.
Yes.
In summary, in fact, there's a lot to speak about this book. Okay, but for the sake of time, I gotta shorten it up. In summer, the book of Job is one of the textbooks that gives us a picture of what we cannot see and give us an understanding of what is going on in this earth in every single level. Remember, Satan said, I'm coming from earth and looking up on every single thing. Everything. Sometimes when I'm talking with my wife about, we're having Bible studies, and I say, if you take Satan out of the picture, things will not make sense, certain things that you debate. But if you put him in the picture of what's going on in the earth, a lot of things will make sense. The problem is many people do not understand certain things because Satan never showed himself. It's not like Jesus or God whose light, which we know openly about him. Satan cannot do that because if he does that, you know what? If Satan shows himself as he is, he won't be able to tempt none of us because we know who he is. He has no peace. He is enraged. He is depressed. He is agitated. You don't want to be close to none of that. It's like, as soon as you're like, oh my goodness, my skin, no, I don't want to be close to him. You won't even talk to him. But if Jesus comes, you have peace, all these good feelings, you want to stay close to him. Yes. So that's why Satan needs to clothe himself and do everything behind the curtain. Yes. But then later on, move his subjects to make you believe that somehow you're the one in trouble. I have to end it here because I'm tempted to go on the whole day just speaking. But exactly. So I pray, brothers and sisters, that we meditate in this book. Yes. Because there's a lot of things that we can learn and apply in our daily lives. All right? So let's bow our head and end in prayer. Eternal Father, thank you so much for the blessing you gave us in studying your word. Our knowledge is imperfect, but we want to learn little by little so that we grow day after day. Father, thanks again for giving us life and the day of worship and fellowship among each other. Continue to bless us as we leave this place so that we continue to look for you. And like Job, we also want one day to hear your voice saying, have you considered that brother? Or any of us here that is rightful and does his will. We want to hear that approval, Father. Be that our only desire. In the name of Jesus I pray. Amen. Amen.